Welcome to NFL Nexus. In the world of the NFL, a single coaching change is it's never just one move. It's really like the first domino in a long, winding line that can stretch across an entire division, toppling rivals and completely rewriting a team's fortunes. So today, we're going to track a really fascinating chain reaction that's starting in Washington. A decision made by the Commanders is now sending these shockwaves that, honestly, could completely reshape the power balance in the NFC East. Okay, let's break down how one single departure is setting the entire league on edge.
Right, so every domino chain has a starting point. And for the Commanders, that first little push came from the very top of their offensive coaching staff. After a season that was just plagued by sputtering drives, an inability to protect the quarterback, and an offense that just could never find a consistent rhythm, both the team and its offensive coordinator knew a change was needed. And this wasn't just some minor tweak. This was a decision to slam the reset button and fundamentally change their whole offensive identity.
And look, this wasn't just swapping one coach for another. No. This was a complete 180-degree turn in philosophy. On one hand, you've got the departing coach, Kliff Kingsbury, a veteran play caller, a former head coach, a known quantity, with a defined air raid system that's all about passing the ball. And then on the other hand, you have his replacement, David Blau, who's leading a much younger staff. The experience gap here is just massive, and it signals a clear move away from established veteran leadership to, unproven potential. This tells us Washington is prioritizing a fresh, maybe more modern approach, even if it comes with a pretty significant risk.
The official language, as you always hear, was a mutual parting of ways. Now, in the NFL, that's often code, right? It suggests that the relationship had kind of run its course, and that both the team and the coach recognized that the offensive struggles, they just weren't going to be solved by staying the course. It's really a way to publicly signal a clean break, allowing both sides to save a little face while acknowledging that the strategic fit just wasn't there anymore. So this wasn't a firing. It was basically an admission that a fresh start was the only path forward for everybody involved.
So who is this new architect of the Commanders' offense? Well, it's David Blau, an internal promotion. Now, promoting from within, that can provide some stability and familiarity for the players, sure, but the headline here is massive. He's a first-time play caller. Just think about the pressure of that role for a second. Every single offensive play on a Sunday, every third down call, every 2-minute drill, it all goes through him. For a team that's trying to develop a young quarterback and establish a new identity, handing the keys to a completely unproven coordinator is one of the biggest gambles a franchise can possibly make.
And does the inexperience stop at the offensive coordinator? Oh, not even close. This youth movement, it permeates the entire offensive staff. Their new quarterbacks coach, DJ Williams, has pretty limited experience. And get this, the assistant QB coach, Danny Etling, is in his very first coaching job, period. This is not a team that's hedging its bets. Washington has made a conscious, strategic decision to go all in on a youth movement, basically betting that fresh ideas and new energy are going to outweigh a serious lack of seasoned experience.
So, with Kliff Kingsbury now a free agent, the next domino was set to fall. The question wasn't if he would get a new job, it was where. And for the Commanders, the answer to that question started to look like an absolute nightmare scenario. The outward ripple from their decision was heading straight for their own backyard, threatening to turn a former coach into a very formidable new rival. After testing the waters with a few teams like the Titans, Kingsbury's job search brought him right back to the NFC East, the most hostile territory imaginable for the Commanders. As the sources confirm, he sat down for an interview with the New York Giants. Now for Washington, this is way more than just a coaching move. The NFC East is a pressure cooker of historic, bitter rivalries. The thought of your former offensive coordinator, the guy who knows all your players' secrets, joining a team you have to battle twice a year, that is a strategic disaster in the making.
So you have to ask, why were the Giants so interested? Because they were basically looking in the mirror and seeing the exact same problems as Washington. Both teams were offensively anemic last season. They were both searching for an identity, a spark, really just anything to get their offenses moving. And this shared desperation turned them into direct competitors, not just for wins on Sunday, but for the coaching minds who could potentially fix their broken offenses.
To really understand the Giants' desperation, you only need to know one number: 39.29%. That was their touchdown rate in the red zone. That critical area inside the opponent's 20-yard line. Now, according to the source, that wasn't just bad, it was dead last. The absolute worst in the entire NFL. Just let that sink in for a moment. They would march the entire length of the field, get right there within scoring distance, and more than 60% of the time, they would fail to score a touchdown. That's not just an issue. That is a complete offensive breakdown that absolutely demoralizes a team. And you know what? That inability to finish drives should sound painfully familiar to Kliff Kingsbury. His Commanders' offense had a very similar problem, averaging just 20.9 points per game, which ranked them way down in the bottom third of the league at 22nd. So while the specific stats are a little different, the story is exactly the same. An offense that can move the ball between the 20s, but just really struggled to consistently turn all those yards into actual points on the board.
And this leads us to a really critical question, one you're probably thinking right now. If Kingsbury's offense in Washington was also struggling, ranking 24th in passing and 22nd in scoring, why on earth would the Giants be so interested in hiring him? It seems totally counterintuitive, right? But the answer isn't really about his most recent results. It's about his reputation and a very specific skill set that he's known for.
See, the answer is that the Giants weren't hiring Kingsbury for his 2023 performance. They were interested in his career-long reputation as a quarterback guru. His entire brand is built around developing modern, athletic quarterbacks. I mean, just think about his resume. He was instrumental in Kyler Murray's development in Arizona, helping him win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He coached Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, helping shape the raw talent that would become, the best player in the world. He just worked with Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. So for a team like the Giants, who have a young, athletic quarterback they need to get the absolute most out of, that track record is way more important than one down year in Washington.
But the real, and I mean the real threat to Washington goes way beyond X's and O's. It's about intelligence, it's about intel. Kingsbury has a full year's worth of insider knowledge on the Commanders' personnel. He knows their audibles, their offensive line's specific weaknesses, their receivers' favorite routes. He even knows the defense's tendencies from practicing against them every day. Hiring him is basically like a form of corporate espionage in the NFL. And giving that level of institutional knowledge to a division rival you have to face twice a year is a strategic nightmare that could directly cost them games.
Okay, so now let's shift our focus back to Washington. Because while the Commanders were worried about this external threat of Kingsbury joining a rival, another domino was teetering internally, one that threatened to completely wipe out all of their veteran coaching experience. They were right on the verge of another major loss, but this time, a little twist of fate would actually work in their favor.
So the potential crisis for Washington is best understood as just this massive experience gap on their own staff. On one side, you have the new young coaches, David Blau and his assistants, who are all basically learning on the job. And then on the other side stood one man, assistant head coach Brian Johnson. With over a decade of experience, including a recent run as the offensive coordinator for the rival Philadelphia Eagles, he was the lone veteran anchor in a sea of inexperience. I mean, the chasm between Johnson and the rest of the staff was just immense.
And Washington nearly lost him. They nearly lost that veteran presence. This domino effect and a pretty wild twist actually saved them. So step one, Brian Johnson becomes a very serious candidate for the Denver Broncos offensive coordinator job. He interviews and it's a real possibility he's gone. Then, step two. In a crucial turn of events for Washington, the Broncos decide to promote an internal candidate, Davis Webb, because they didn't want to lose their own rising star coach. And that leads to step three. With the Denver job now filled, Johnson's best option is to stay put, and so he is now highly likely to remain with the Commanders. A huge bullet dodged.
The importance of keeping Johnson, you just can't overstate it. The source material frames it perfectly. Without him, the new staff would have no one to lean on when things go south. And in the NFL, going south is inevitable. It always happens. It's a key injury to your star player. It's a 3-game losing streak that tests the locker room. It's a critical turnover in a must-win game. For a defensive head coach and a rookie play caller, Johnson is so much more than just a coach. He's the calm in the storm, the experienced voice who has seen it all before and can guide a young staff through the adversity that is absolutely guaranteed to come.
So, when we pull back and we view the entire chessboard, the final picture really starts to come into focus. The Commanders' offseason hasn't been about one single decision, but a really complex game of coaching chess. Every move, and just as importantly, every move they didn't make, has created this intricate web of external threats and internal stability that will ultimately define their entire season.
This table, it perfectly summarizes the dual reality Washington is facing. On one side of the coin, you have the external threat. Their former OC, Kliff Kingsbury, could take all that insider knowledge to a division rival. But on the other side, they've been fortunate enough to maintain an internal stabilizer. Brian Johnson, the critical veteran mentor this young offensive staff so desperately needs. It's just a fascinating balance of risk and reward.
And so, ultimately, the Commanders are walking a strategic tightrope. Their entire offensive future is balanced on this knife's edge. They've made a really high-risk bet on youth and innovation. But the success of that bet,
It may have less to do with the new coaches they hired and a whole lot more to do with the one veteran they were lucky enough to keep and the former coach they now might have to face twice a year.
And this leaves us with a fascinating, forward-looking question that is just going to hang over this team all season long. They have a rookie offensive coordinator being mentored and stabilized by a veteran presence, which is a great setup. But they also have their former OC potentially armed with their entire playbook just a couple of division games away. So the question is, will this high-stakes coaching gamble pay off for Washington, or have they inadvertently armed a rival while rolling the dice on inexperience at home? Only the upcoming season is going to tell.
Well, that's all for this deep dive from NFL Nexus. The intricate web of coaching moves just goes to show how every single decision in this league is connected, creating these incredible domino effects that can shape a franchise for years to come.
If you enjoyed this breakdown of the NFL's strategic chess game, please make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus and hit that like button. We really want to know what you think. Will Washington's coaching gamble pay off? Drop your prediction in the comments below. And hey, if you'd like to support the channel, check out our custom coloring books. They're a great gift for any football fan out there, young or old. You can find the link right in the description, or you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.